In this video I'm going to be talking about the solar return sun as it goes through the houses in your subsequent solar return charts. Hi, this is Alison. I've been doing astrology for many years. Astrology is my passion and I'm happy to share it with you today. This is actually the second part in a couple of videos on solar returns, which is a forecasting technique that I use every day in my astrology practice. I've put the links below in the show notes about the other two videos in this series. We're going to be looking at how the solar return sun makes a difference when it's in a different house in your solar return chart. So the solar return sun in the solar return houses shows which house has a spotlight on it for the forthcoming year, and it's where you can shine in your life. And we're going to be looking at the sun in the solar return houses on a broad stroke here, because by now you've got your solar return chart no doubt in front of you and you know which house your sun is in and which house it's going to be in next year. So when the solar return sun is in your first house, the focus will be on personal self-improvement. You can also expect some physical changes and let people get to know you, because it's first house, it's face-to-face stuff going on now. When the solar return sun falls in your second house, you can expect some improved self-esteem. You can expect to improve your personal or core values and earn a good income. It's a great place. When the solar return sun is in your third house, you can focus on short courses and learning skills. This is a time to participate more in your neighborhood, and you can allow self-expression to become important through courses or learning something like that locally. When the solar return sun is in your fourth house, you are more likely to spend time at home and stamp your personality onto your home. And this would, of course, be a good time to move home or renovate or do the basement or something like that, or just redecorate, sort your home out. And you can then start to identify with your family, whoever they are, not only the current family who's living with you now, but your ancestries and where you came from and that sort of thing, the foundations in your life that have brought you to the place where you are today. When the solar return sun falls in your fifth house, you can give birth to your creative projects. I love this position personally. You can enjoy your children and you can enjoy playing as well, and it is a possible time to fall pregnant too. So again, what are you trying to give birth to? What are you trying to be creative about? Creation, procreation and recreation, all fifth house things. When the solar return is in your sixth house, you could begin your own business. It's a 6-hour thing, that would be a struggle, but you could get organized there. You are more likely to be going back to work and attend to your heart health. It's a broad stroke. The sun is in your sixth house in your solar return chart, indicating it's going to be a year when you need to pay attention to health issues pertaining to the sun, which is of course the heart and the back as well, but generally the heart. When the solar return sun falls in your seventh house, you feel an individual within your partnership. This can be a challenging position if you are married or in a committed relationship, because when the sun is in the seventh, it actually wants to be individual and not within the partnership. So instead of just being Bob's girlfriend, you tend to want to be Agatha Jones or something, and stand up individually and not just the girlfriend or the wife or the husband for that matter, or the partner. And you can experience some legal matters in all its forms. We all get to these things in life. The longer you live, the more likely you are to experience legal matters in whatever form they are. And you may actually at this point consider marriage. So that's an interesting thing. I'm saying consider that, yes. And when the solar return sun is in your eighth house, you are likely to spend time on personal inward looking. It is a deep house. You could possibly inherit from your father. Now, typically, if we know that the sun will be in this position 4 times in 30 years, you're not going to inherit from your father all the time or every time or even any time it comes through. But that is a typical indication of an inheritance with 8th house stuff. And of course, the sun is your father in your chart. And you are likely to acquire some individual debt. That means that even though it's the house of your partner's resources, when the sun goes there, you are likely to create yourself some debt all by your own self, run up your credit cards or something like that. When the solar return sun is in the 9th house, you can expect to travel or begin a self-improvement course. This is really a great house. And you'll be attracted to and want to identify with foreign things. Perhaps you want to travel, perhaps you understand different cultures on a very basic level. You might just be trying different types of cuisine or something like that, and going to an Indian restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, stretching yourself a little bit more cosmopolitan, a little bit more internationally looking. And then when the solar return sun is in your 10th house, you can finally get your career to take off. And because you'll gain public accolades for previous endeavours, honours will come your way at this time. This is the one I was talking about right at the beginning, that if you want to put out a business or get your career moving, you definitely can, and you will become known and have a reputation in the public domain when the solar return sun is in your 10th house, because the spotlight is on you and your career and what you're doing in the world. When the solar return sun is in your 11th house, you are more likely to become humanitarian and concerned about humanity. You are likely to identify with a cause close to your heart or begin a self-interest group. Now, this is interesting because we know the 11th house is groups and friends. But when the sun is there and in the solar return chart, the sun is all about the self, the ego, the individual. So a self-interest group. And this could be that you decide you're going to perhaps even create a Facebook group or something like that that you're driving yourself because it interests you. You are not necessarily going to participate in somebody else's community and group. You will create one for yourself, something that interests you, so that you can drive from the top, because the sun is in that 11th house of your solar return chart. So when the solar return sun is in your 12th house, this would be a year to recharge and replenish your inner self. It will be a time to retire and withdraw from life for a little while, and a time to reflect on your life path, what you're doing, take it easy, maybe recuperate. And of course, this is what I was saying at the beginning, that sometimes we do need a year where you can recover from whatever it is that life has thrown at you. But now and again, you might decide that if this is a year that you want to launch a business, you might not want your solar return to be in the 12th house, because it will be much harder to do so in that year. So the solar return sun's aspects will show the year's identity and ego drives. Aspects to the solar return sun will be very important, and the importance of aspects are hotly debated on and on into the future, as astrologers do, but I only really use the major aspects, the major 5 Ptolemaic aspects, conjunction squares, trines, oppositions and sextiles, when I'm looking at solar return charts. If you've got more time on your hands, you can definitely explore the minor aspects, the semisextile, quincunx, semisquare and sesquiquadrate, or even if you're into it, the lesser used aspects like the quintile, the septile, the novale, and all those ones that are very specialized in astrology. But stay on the high roads, look at the sun, look at the sun's house, the sun's aspects, and only the major aspects. The transiting sun reinforces the natal sun's aspects. What this means is that because in your natal chart your sun will have some aspects, maybe you've got a square to Uranus, as Stephen King, and that's in the natal chart, so he's living with it all his life. But when the sun comes around and makes the exact position to that sun in each solar return, it re-stimulates that square to Uranus, so it remakes all the solar aspects as part of its transit, complex as it is. So it's quite powerful as well that on your birthday, those solar aspects that you have in your natal chart will be triggered that time as well. So what about some planets in the solar return chart? So as far I believe, the sun is the most important planet in the solar return chart, because that's where it comes from. And it's all to do with the astrological meaning of self, ego, life and drive. And it's what really, it's your heart pumping. We are alive. Because of the sun, we are alive. If there was no sun, none of us would be here. So it really is the lifeblood. However, you can look at some of the other planets in a solar return chart, and we're just going to briefly touch on those. So the moon in the solar return chart, again, shows the meaning of your emotions, feelings and instinctive behavior for the year. And the moon's pattern is that it moves forward 1 or 2 houses every year, but the moon goes anti-clockwise, whereas if you remember, the sun went clockwise. And now and again you're going to get a solar return new moon year, which will be important. So let's just have a look at some of these patterns moving through as the moon cycles through the solar return. So here we have the solar return again for 2018. There we have the moon in the 6th house. I'm just going on the house positions now, and it is in Aquarius. Then we look at the next one for next year, and it's moved up 2 houses. It's gone to the 8th, and as you can see, it's going anti-clockwise, and then it's actually moving into the 10th, just the way it moved there. But anyhow, the point is that it went Aquarius, Gemini, Scorpio. Let's look at the next couple of years for the moon, and it's cycling on into this position, now into Pisces again, water. It went into Scorpio last time, now into water again, in the 12th house that is, and then ultimately still in the 12th house, because it's just the way it fell, but remaining in water, so the 3 water signs in a row for the moon's position. So as you can see, the sun is going clockwise, the moon is going anti-clockwise, and now and again they come together. What about solar return Mercury? So this of course indicates the area of learning for the year, and Mercury travels near the sun. Obviously we do know this. Mercury doesn't have a particular pattern going on, but it does hang around close to the sun as well. The solar return Venus. So Venus has to do with love and money, and it cycles through the zodiac every 8 years, and Venus falls into a well-known pattern of 5-8. Venus will naturally have 5 retrograde periods over an 8-year cycle, and this pattern actually will show through in the solar returns if you run them long enough. So Venus, here we have Venus at 6 Scorpio in 2018, and then it moves 1/5 up. Can you see we're moving 1/5 around the circle by position, and there it is in the 12th house. Next it's moving over as well into the 15 Leo, and it will then cycle further round into the Scorpio in the 7th house, and then again to the Virgo. So although it's difficult to see, there is actually a pattern there, and over an 8-year period Venus will come back to almost the exact same position it was on year 1. So in general you really only have 8 positions for solar return Venus, although they do move a little bit, but generally once you've got the pattern, it's set for life. Solar return Mars. Mars means action and energy expenditure, and this is especially so if it has an aspect to the sun in the solar return chart. Mars has no set pattern of its movement through the solar return chart. So the solar return of Jupiter and Saturn reinforce any interpretations already found in the transit forecast, and the house position is more important than the sign as they slowly move through the zodiac, because ultimately you're going to be pulling these planets from the transit interpretation. You're not really going to look at the solar return as the first step. And then the solar return out as Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. If they aspect the sun, they will be brought forward into the solar return, but otherwise they just generally retain their meaning. It can be used to reinforce any interpretation found in the transit forecast. So there it is, all about the solar return sun as it goes through the houses in your chart. It's incredibly interesting, and I'm sure you're going to love to use solar returns when you get to it. So that's all you need to know about solar return sun as it moves through the houses in your solar return chart. If you enjoy my video, please do subscribe and give me a like, and if you feel the need, you can share this video with anyone you think who would be interested. Solar returns is an incredibly interesting topic in astrology all round. I'd like to thank everyone who supported me in the making of this video. I could not have done it without you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.